Oh, from Indiana. We've had some snow, but we're fine. Nothing to worry about. We're fine. Oh, sorry, I couldn't resist. Oh, this thing is warm. And yes, this is the old school. Uh, and I feel bad about it, but it is baby seal. They don't do that anymore, this manufacturer, and that's a good thing. So I think this is going to be, albeit with digressions, a single subject video. And I'm just hopping back on, maybe two subjects, because things are uh, changing somewhat rapidly. Mm, housekeeping. And no, I'm not going to sell it, but I have gotten two offers. This is the lovely Volcano from Chris Harriet. And let me tell you something about the Chris Harriet. So I pointed out that I already had some chaw because I garden with it. And I clamped down. In particular, I was taking out some roots that I didn't anticipate. And so I clamped down on it pretty good. And Chris saw the video where I was basically praising the pipe in general. And he said, send it back to me. I'm going to make you a wider stem so you can clamp it more properly. Okay. I'm not going to argue with the maker of the pipe. So just in passing, I asked him, what's this going to cost me? Because the whole purpose of this pipa, well, it started with the beautiful RAF blue stem, which hopefully, pardon, you can see that beautiful color. Yeah, you can see that chaw mark. I'm rough on my pipes and my women. And he said, oh, no, no charge. Just if you cover the return postage. What a guy. And I mean, it's smart in the sense that I probably do have about 10 years at least life expectancy. And certainly I love coming up with ideas for PIPAs, so the commissions will be flowing his way. But still, Chris Harriet, maker of beautiful pipes, and all around great guy. But that's not the purpose of this video. Uh, I got flack for the last video I put out, which was very short, less than 5 minutes, and simply it was an attaboy to Dr. Alan Harrelson at the Pippa Cottage, Pipe Cottage, for his, what I thought, courageous stand against Nick Fuentes. And I had to block two people in the comments afterwards. I learned a new acronym, GFYS. I got that once. And the other one I can't even break down pre 5 minutes into something that you would understand, but trust me, it's nasty. Oh, mm, I'm smoking. So LJ Perry screwed up. I got a sampler. I ordered a sampler pack of the English. This English they consider burley. I think it's English. And they sent me four of them. And I called them back and I said, hey, buddies, you sent me four of these. I only ordered one. And they went back and they said, "Oh yeah, you're right." They didn't charge me for the other three, but they said, "Hey, do you like the tobacco?" First of all, they asked me, "Do you like the tobacco?" And I said, "Yeah, it's great. Matter of fact, I was going to order a pound of it." And they said, "Okay, how about this? We charge you for only half price on the three, so essentially one and a half for free, and they're 4 2 ounces, if I recall correctly. I guess I'll do the pour. Well, maybe I get a little bit more." And they said, "Can you take a store credit?" I said, "Absolutely. Send me a pound of that crown." So I've been smoking this, and now I'm just trying to use up the pouches. And I got a pound in reserve. I mentioned that only because to indicate I like it quite a bit. Now, I think I mentioned when you smoke things, certain tobaccos in a crown, you get different flavors come out. And that is certainly true with the crown. I've never enjoyed it more than smoking it in this pipa. I don't exactly know why that is. I think it, with all due deference to his skill, it has more to do with the shape of the pipa, the volcano, than it does. Actually, this will be better than the craftsmanship of Monsieur Harriet. I'm thinking it might be the inverse of why they tell you to lay down flat if you're ever in quicksand, which is, I know, a common occurrence for most of us. Spreading out your body mass so you can essentially float. Is that it? That more of the surface area of the tobacco is engaged? That it burns, more of it burns lower than on the top? But you definitely get different and, from my perspective, better flavors um, smoking it in a volcano. So I'm going to have to do the pour over. So that's a good thing. But that's not the purpose of the video. So I blocked 2 people, nasty comments, basically telling me I don't know what I'm talking about with regards to Monsieur Fuentes. And Dr. Alan Harrelson has put out a couple more videos. The first one was I understand somewhat, but you young people really need to think about your support for Fuentes. It was more of a paternalistic, and I guess that was exactly the wrong thing. Um, so then he put out a video yesterday, which was more typical of our esteemed doctor of American history, and it was funny. He put it up, and after 10 hours, he had over 250 comments. The comments at the bottom, which I presume are mostly from his hardcore followers, were mostly laudatory. Couple, couple of pot shots, but mostly. But then I guess the word got around, and the last 20 of them were just anywhere from bad to vile. Uh, and he left them up to his credit. But in a minor way, I experienced the same. And as a result, I've been following the fallout from this whole thing. And it all stems from an interview that Tucker Carlson, perhaps President Tucker Carlson, uh, did with Fuentes on his channel, his YouTube channel. I think it's a YouTube channel. And if you don't know, Carlson was basically criticized for letting Fuentes skate on his more egregious views, such as his admiration for Joe Stalin. Being of Ukrainian descent, that obviously doesn't sit very well with me. And also past comments that are less than critical of the Nazi regime. But what really got my goat, so to speak, was a MSNBC clip that showed up in my Chrome feed. I don't usually watch MSNBC. I don't have a TV. I've had a TV for 20 years, but I know what MSNBC is. I don't have a grudge against them per se, but I've never found their reporting very good. And I've found some of their on air personalities quite sanctimonious, to say the least. But there appeared on the screen a reporter or a personality. I would say she was in her late 30s, maybe early 40s. She was interviewing a writer who had put an op-ed into the LA Times about this. He was slightly younger. And what triggered me was, well, something that Dr. Alan Harrelson would have an issue with, which was the utter ignorance of American history. And in this case, it had to do with, I guess, personalities, rather than interviewing people, have to interject to project the image that they're engaged in the conversation or they have something to add. And her interjection was, oh, yes, I'm paraphrasing. I remember even back in the days of George W. Bush that extreme voices such as that would never have been given any uh, um, I'm saying atmosphere, oxygen in within the party tent. You ignorant shit. Let me break it down for you. Both parties have Achilles heels on the fringe side. So, just to at least pretend that I'm not biased, I'll go for the left first. The left, obviously, and this is worldwide, not so much in the United States. Oh, hey there, Coco. Hey, did talk of Joe Stalin get you excited? Hey, what's up? What's up, lover? Hey, you want to come up? Pretty girl. Pretty girl, you want to come up? Here, come up. Everyone always likes to see you. Come here. Come here. Come here. Pretty girl. Hey, the Coco. The Coco. I guess not. Um, yes, the worldwide left obviously have always pandered to communist autocrats, and the French left being the worst amongst them. But in the United States, it's mostly taken to the form of bomb throwers and lone wolves. So, bomb throwers of the domestic variety would be people like the Weathermen, some of the radicals that took over Columbia University in 1968. But the impact has been greater amongst lone wolves. Lone wolves, those who become assassins. And of course, the most famous of those being Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, you might say, oh, well, he killed a Democrat president. Yes, but Lone Harvey. Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk about Lee Harvey Oswald? Does that get your dander up? You're named Coco after Coco Chanel. Yes, you are. Yes, you just want to be in the warm coat. Okay, we'll talk soon. So Lee Harvey Oswald was a communist sympathizer. Well, he had defected to the Soviet Union back when that still existed. So to him, a moderate Democrat such as JFK was to his political right. And all the other assassins. The only one I wouldn't count would be Hinckley. He was just obviously mentally disturbed, and he was looking for anything that would get the attention of his supposed beloved Jodie Foster. I don't know, by the way, I don't know this. Did he ever suspect that Jodie Foster was not heterosexual during his fascination with her? Don't know that. I have to ask AI. Oh, this is just too rich a digression. So I read an article recently that cited Ezra Pound, the poet, who was also a fascist and got locked up after World War II. He was in the same mental facility, St. Elizabeth's, outside of D.C., that Hinckley eventually got confined to. I thought there was a certain ironic twist in that. But uh, the left has these lone wolves, and that's always been their problem. They have done a good job as far as assimilating student radicals from the 60s, for example, Vietnam War protesters. Remember Tom Hayden, one of Jane Fonda's husbands? He was one of the Chicago Eight. He later became an elected official, while John Kerry testified to Congress, famously threw his medals away at the Pentagon, the steps of the Pentagon, and he eventually was running on a national ticket. So they do integrate sometimes, but that's the Democrat side as far as their fringe element. Now on the right, and getting to the point of this nitwit from MSNBC, oh, that's a good girl. Look at you. So pretty. What she was saying was basically, oh, this is a new development within the Republican Party. No, it isn't shit for brains. Now, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I got a book over there, and geez, you gonna let me use one hand? Let me use one hand. Let's see. I'm gonna put this over here. I'm gonna put this over here. I would highly recommend. Actually, I highly recommend to two people, James Steidel, and her, to read this. I got this really cheap on Amazon. I don't know why. Okay, I know you like the two hands. Here we go. There you go. The right's difficulties with fringe elements go back all the way to the know-nothings of the late 18th, well, really early 19th century. By the way, there's a very good portrait of the know-nothings that's incarnated within the character of Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York. And basically, they were the first America for Americans. In the case of Bill the Butcher, it was his father who had perished in the Revolution. But they've had this issue, and most notably, pointing with my eyes back to the book that I just showed, which is wonderful. For a political junkie like myself, it's cotton candy because you know every part, well, you know most of the story, but you get all these little inside nuggets, and it's like looking through a family scrapbook for someone like me. But I digress. Buckley in the 50s had an almost identical issue with the John Birch Society. He was firing up National Review. He had borrowed lots of money. Oh, you want to get down, or am I just holding it too low? She doesn't like to be held low. Oh, let me go for the belly. Yes, the belly. We're gonna do the belly. That's okay. You don't have to push. Buckley had Birchers on his executive board of National Review. They weren't a majority, but they were a significant minority. So he had to tread a very fine line. But he determined that these people were, by and large, anti-Semites. They were holdovers from the America First crowd of the 1930s, all the way up to World War II, led by America's true poster boy, Charles Lindbergh. There's a great photo in a New York Review of Books article of the book. The book reviewed is a book that concerns the 42 rally in Madison Square Garden. Okay, okay, I'm gonna let you down. There you go. There you go. That's a good girl. No, it had to be, it was Pearl Harbor, obviously, December 9th, 1941. Must have been 41. I think it was late 41. But it was America First, and they packed the old Madison Square Garden. And there's a picture of Lindbergh. They have Bundestag flags alternating with American flags in the rafters. And there's Lindbergh giving a half, see if I can get this in there, a half Nazi salute. And next to him is a sitting United States Senator, and I believe his wife. But that was a real deal. And these people kind of morphed. And if you don't know who John Birch was, he was a missionary in China, Christian missionary, who was killed by the communist forces. And ostensibly, they were an anti-communist league. But really, they were a collection of these, for the day, alt-right individuals. And there was a variety of different agendas that they possessed. And Buckley, I can hold it up again, determined, that they had to go, that the movement had to be purified. Now, what he did is reminiscent of what has happened recently, and if this nitwit knew history, political history, she would know that this is not uncommon within the right. Whereas I mentioned, the left has a policy of moderation and assimilation. And by the way, this is true. There were fringe elements of the Baader-Meinhof gang in Germany, of the Red Army Brigade in Italy that famously kidnapped and then killed the president of Italy, Adolfo Moro, and left him in the trunk of a Fiat to be discovered by the police. And these individuals eventually worked their way back into the mainstream. Maybe not as leaders per se, but they were co-opted. But the left is different because they are always pushing against the established order. So ideologically, they have more flexibility to embrace disparate elements. The right, traditionally being, or almost exclusively being, the upholder of the established order. After all, conservatism, to conserve. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily right. If it's 100 years in Mississippi after the end of the Civil War, and you're a black man and you're still a second-class citizen, pushing against the established order probably has come well nigh. Mr. Buckley got his head handed to him at that Oxford debate with James Baldwin, precisely on that point, where Baldwin just, like a sermon, keeps giving examples and saying, when is it time? When is it time? One egregious example of another, after another, of second-class citizenship that black Americans at the time, it was 64, they had this famous Oxford debating society kerfuffle. But I digress. Well, only partially. In the case of the right, usually it is someone from within the movement who takes the stand on principle. And there is a purge, there is a cleansing, and then the movement moves in a new, more unified direction. So the Buckley stand, and I know that Dr. Alan Harrelson doesn't like, per se, the analogies. He feels he's his own man with Bill Buckley. He might prefer them to Russell Kirk. Maybe I should like this again. And certainly the way he conducts his personal life is much more akin to Russell Kirk than is to Bill Buckley. But he is exercising the same political, I don't want to say knee jerk because that has a bad connotation, the same political reflex as is traditionally true of individuals, leaders from his side of the spectrum. And so this nitwit on MSNBC, instead, pardon me, instead, if she was opining about anything, should have been saying, and who amongst the Republicans today is going to be the Bill Buckley of the 1950s and 60s, purging the John Birchers, today's Nick Fuentes. I'm sorry, Reupers, as they are called, I believe. But no, she didn't. She didn't have the fucking intelligence to ask that question. Now, Dr. Alan Harrelson is not a GOP leader. He's not even officially affiliated with the party. He's a Southern conservative, a Southern agrarian, but he is a thought leader. He has more followers than anybody who writes for the imaginative conservative or the American thinker or even National Review. Hell, he probably has more followers to the Pipe Cottage on YouTube than the National Review or any of the think tanks, Claremont Institute, the Hoover Institute, etc. So his doing this is a big deal. But it's a spillover effect. Now, of course, the shoe to drop in all of this is BDT. And of course, I refer to Big Daddy Trump. He did have dinner with Fuentes, whatever it was, 5, 6 years ago, but things were different then. I'm not looking to give the man an excuse. And this definitely has divided. The one thing I learned, if it's true, from the MSNBC report that was surprising was that I don't know if this was officially a poll or it just was someone's impression, but the Heritage Foundation, which is the most old line of conservative think tanks, apparently 50% of their interns believe that Nick Fuentes has a voice which needs to be heard by the GOP. Not saying they necessarily agree with him, but that he is a legitimate voice, that he should not be canceled, as Dr. Alan Harrison said he should. And I'll concur with him in that. So this issue has not seen its 15 minutes per Andy Warhol. And it's going to be something that resonates going into the next presidential election cycle. All the GOP contenders during the primary process are going to be put on the mat as far as their stance on this. And Tucker Carlson, if he's going to throw his hat in the ring, which is a good idea because he has such well-coiffed hair, but I digress. This could be the masterstroke of all time. he has nicely straddled this. He can legitimately say, well, I had him on my show. I'm the reason all this is happening. I think the man has some views that need to be heard. He could really box J.D. Vance into a corner, or any number of individuals who think that they want to take a shot at the title. So stay tuned on this one. Now, as someone, my views are all over the place. Foreign policy is different than economics versus social policy, etc. But as someone who is not certainly in the MAGA camp, this is manna from the gods. If I didn't have temporary crowns, I'd be eating popcorn 24/7. I'm enjoying this shit so much. So, that admission aside, as I said, I'll repeat myself because I'm redundant, because I'm a redundant fuckstick. Stay tuned. There's more to come. Anything else? No. You're welcome. Hit the fucking button. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost forgot. I have about 10 followers who love this. So let me put it in the context of the video. Oh, so Tucker Carlson is essentially saying with this maneuver to J.D. Vance in his next presidential campaign, take it! Take it! Take it! All right, now hit the button.